Good evening and welcome to the secrettowriting.com's Expanding College Opportunity Speaker Series. Today's topic is choosing a women's college, an insider's perspective. I am so delighted to host three terrific guests: Nicole Reynolds from Mount Holyoke College, Laura Stratton from Scripps College, and Jasmine Faison, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Bennett College. So during the course of our session today, I have a list of questions that some of you have sent in, and I will kind of go through the questions and ask our panelists for their feedback. As I've shared with our esteemed panel, I like to treat these sessions as a fireside chat. Even if it's not cold outside, I still like to call it a fireside chat because I want it to be relaxed and for there to be a free-flowing stream of information. So with that said, I will just sort of put a stake in the ground here, pause, and we'll get started by asking our panelists to take 2 or 3 minutes to introduce themselves as they wish. So, as a matter of order, we'll go by last names first. We'll start with Jasmine, then Nicole, and then Laura. Jasmine, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Faison. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at Bennett College, and I am also a proud graduate of Bennett College as well, class of 2010. My traditional educational background is in theater and the performing arts, but along the way, I ended up in higher education and have been here ever since. I'm really excited to speak with you this evening just to share more information about women's colleges, about Bennett College, and just really excited to be joined by 2 awesome women who will be sharing great information with you tonight as well. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, Stan, for having us. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and share what knowledge I can with you all. My name is Nicole Reynolds. I use she, her pronouns. I'm Director of Enrollment Marketing and Communications and Senior Associate Director of Admission at Mount Holyoke College. And because this is an introduction to women's colleges for some of you, I'll share that for those who don't know, Mount Holyoke is the first of the powerful 7 sister colleges. We were founded in 1837 at a time when the only institutions of higher education were the Ivy Leagues and they only admitted men. So our founder acted on the strong conviction that women could and should have access to the same kind of knowledge that men should, and to put it to good use in the world, and we're glad that she did. So today we're quite a ways from our founding moment in 1837. We don't only admit women, we also admit trans and non-binary students at Mount Holyoke. And there are 5 actually of the original 7 sisters remaining. It's Barnard, Bryn Mawr, Mount Holyoke, Smith, and Wellesley College. So if what we say here tonight excites you, there are plenty more women's colleges for you to explore.
Thank you, Nicole. That's terrific. Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Stratton. I'm the Director of Admission at Scripps College, which is out in Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles. And we are a member of the Claremont Colleges, along with Pomona, Pitzer, Harvey Mudd, and Claremont McKenna. While at one time 3 of the 5 were single gender institutions, Scripps is the only remaining women's college. Our students really enjoy the fact that they get to have a women's college experience and also a more integrated 5C or 5 college experience in Southern California. So I had to laugh, Stan, when you said the thing about a fireside chat, because it's really sunny and pretty warm here. And so I think that that's another selling feature for Scripps, along with the fact that I think women's colleges in general, but I know at Scripps, having read applications for the last many months, is a great place for a student who's looking to grow in a supportive environment, but also wants challenge without competition. So I know we're going to talk about that, but those are some of the things that are top of mind for me right now. I've been at Scripps for 15 years, have had a lot of learning happen of what students need and want from college, and so just happy to talk about that tonight. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Laura. Let me turn to my first question of the evening, perhaps not a surprise, but I really would like to hear from each of you your thoughts on the following. What is the value of attending a women's college? Nicole, shall we go in this order? Nicole, Laura, and Jasmine?
Sounds great. So I want each of you in the audience to recall a time when your voice or your ideas or your aspirations were marginalized or worse, dismissed because of your gender or gender identity. Might have happened in an academic setting, maybe it was in a work setting or in a social setting. Think about how you felt. Did it change your actions or your plans, or maybe it sort of shook your foundation a little bit and altered your concept of what you were capable of? Now, I want you to imagine a space where that doesn't exist. In fact, not only doesn't it exist, but the exact opposite is true. Think about a space where you're taken seriously, right? Without
Nicole,
having to ask. Yeah.
can I interrupt you for 1 second? I was just given a notice that the panel, that we can't see the panel, which is odd. So can you hold 1 second?
Sure can.
Janine? You can see me, but you can't see the panel. That is really odd. And I don't know if it's just, I think we will just, before this panel just started, we were talking about technology and all of the different twists that come with technology. And this is a new one where I get a message that says that the audience can't see the panelists, even though I see the panelists, you all. So I don't know. Sometimes we'll double check it. Sometimes I've noticed that with these, there will be an image and it'll go out and it'll come back in. But definitely, I think we'll just go on, and I'm hoping that everything will be okay. And maybe I'll get, I don't have the little things in my ear with people talking to me, but hopefully we'll be all right. So Nicole, my apology for interrupting you. Or
no worries.
Well, if you
no
pick
problem.
up where you left off.
You bet. I'm hoping that maybe everyone in the audience had time to think about a few examples where they felt sort of marginalized or dismissed, and I was just inviting you to imagine a space where that doesn't exist, and the opposite is actually true. If you think about a space where you're taken seriously without having to ask, where your voice and your ideas and your passions really take center stage, a space where faculty, staff, and peers all choose to be there because they're dedicated to your success and to one another's success, well, that's a women's college. So now take a moment and think about what spending 4 years in such an empowering environment might mean for you. What would that feel like? It's pretty great. I should have shared at the top of the session that I'm a Mount Holyoke alum, and I know firsthand how powerful that experience is, of that constant encouragement and that constant invitation to see bigger, to think bigger, and to see more of your potential and reach it. And that's why women's colleges are such incredible launch pads for female leaders. So, the answer to what's the value of attending a women's college is how much time do you have, I think, because I'm sure we could talk for an hour just on that topic alone, but I'll go ahead and pass it along.
Thank you.
It's so clear to me, Nicole, that you went to a women's college, because the way you talk about it, I'm like, yes, that's what it's about. One of the things I will say too is that I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just expanding on what we hear from students as they're applying is that often there's someone in the class that they're in, and if you don't talk first, you don't have a voice. And one of the things that we see at Scripps is that our students are encouraged to be great active listeners and to not have to talk the loudest or the longest to have a voice. And I think that's such a powerful thing, especially for students who are more introverted, to know that they're going to intrinsically be seen as having value. I think that it also allows students in class and in clubs and organizations in a residential environment to think about gender and, right? How does my gender and another part of my identity come into the community? And I think that that leads to some really powerful conversations academically that prepare students for careers in graduate school, but also just like in life. And our students do a great job of really lifting each other. And even if they're not into dance, if their roommate or suite mate has a dance, performance going on, they're going to be there. And I just think that it's also the students who choose a women's college are the students who are already primed to be great supporters of each other, and then also to really grow into what it means for them to be a leader, that it's okay to be a leader from within, and it's okay to be a leader from the front. And so I think that it's allowing just for a student to be most authentically themselves.
Thank you. Terrific. By the way, I did get the message that we all are good with the visuals.
Well, thank God I did my hair, because otherwise I was like, what was the point of that?
Sorry to interrupt there. Jasmine. And Jasmine, you're muted, but now you're unmuted, so you're good. But no,
Okay.
now I.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, awesome. Great reflections already being shared. I mean, a women's college it's a supportive network. Bennett College is a smaller women's college. And so women's colleges are definitely, and most women's colleges typically tend to be medium-sized or small-sized colleges. And so you have the opportunity for students to really engage in smaller classes with, very lively discussions and opportunities for collaboration. It's a place where you have a lot of opportunities to develop your leadership skills, especially with an emphasis on oral and written communication. And women's colleges are, generally speaking, very unique environments that are challenging yet supportive. Because at a women's college, I mean, essentially, if you identify as a woman, everything that's happening at that college is for your specific growth and development as a woman. And that ranges from everything that you're doing in the classroom through your social activities, other civic engagement activities. And so it's a very, at Bennett College, we refer to the Bennett College experience as a very holistic experience. So not just providing, women with the opportunity to enhance themselves academically, professionally, socially, but focusing on those key factors that make us who we are as women, our mental health, our spiritual connections, our physical health. And so at Bennett, we definitely focus on the holistic student, in addition to all of the opportunities that are specific to women that are able to be enhanced and developed through the experience.
Terrific. Jasmine, and you're not only is Bennett a women's college, but it's also an HBCU.
Absolutely.
Can you also offer some thoughts as to that combination and how that
Absolutely. Very, very specific, place of learning. And so, yes, we are one of only 2 historically Black all women's colleges in the entire country. So very small network there, but very vast, again, in regards to the opportunities that we offer to all of our students. The great thing at Bennett is that we have the opportunity to really dissect different pockets of intersectionality, and what that means for our students as they're not only matriculating through Bennett, but what that's going to mean for them in their adult lives lives and their professional lives and so on and so forth. And so we're very uniquely positioned to not only enhance young women of color and all women, because although Bennett College is a historically Black college and university, Bennett College is open to all women. And so not only do we get to explore, being a woman and all of the things that make us who we are in that respect, but we're also able to cross that line of intersectionality, really deep dive into race relations and social justice and all the things that are affecting our students and women in general. So it's a very unique position to be in, to be able to cross those lines and really drill down on the identifiers that make us, so supportive of one another, or so the identifiers that, will it's tricky when you think about, sometimes people say, do you identify as, your ethnic background or your racial background first, or do you identify as a woman through your gender first? And so we have a lot of conversations about what that means, not only for our students, but women across the world.
Okay. Question for the panel. I often hear the expression that attending a women's college can be a transformative experience for female students. What does transformative mean in terms of a women's college experience? Laura, can you start us off with this question?
Of course. I think first of all, just like going to college is transformative, right? Like we have to acknowledge, and I think that it's so important if students are listening or parents, if you're like, I don't know if a women's college is right for me, that's okay. Like you have the time, you have the space to explore. I think that specifically for our students, they might be looking at other women's colleges, they might not. We've seen in recent years, frankly, a much stronger interest in women's colleges and students actually seeking that out. But I think it's a mix of things. I think that some of it is the classmates who also choose a women's college, right? That is an intentional choice. And the students who will also make that intentional choice tend to be very good friends and classmates. So I think that it's also who you surround yourself with is also at least somewhat bought into the idea of empowering other women. By the time they graduate, they're like totally sold, and they think, of course, I always wanted to go to women's college. And we're like, no, I don't think you did. But I think that thing of being in a community with other people who intentionally choose the same type of community is part of it. I think the second thing is just the vibe in the community, in the classroom, when so many of the expectations that are put on young girls can be checked at the door. So, we talk about like, it's as cool for our students to like binge watch documentaries and hang out at a coffee shop as it is to go to a football game, right? Or to go to a party. And so I think some of it is that students can sort of shed a lot of those societal expectations on them as girls, as high school girls, and really figure out what they want and leave with a very clear understanding, not necessarily what they're going to do as a job right out of college, because we know that this generation is going to change careers far more than any of us did or than our parents did, but leaving with the skills to go into wherever they land professionally with a sense of confidence in who they are. And so I think that happens in the classroom with peers and also obviously with faculty who choose a women's college.
Terrific. Nicole,
Sure.
Transformative experience, what does that mean?
I think Laura really framed many of the answers here. I think as Laura mentioned, it starts when they arrive, because at a women's college, these are places where students can show up as themselves. And that doesn't happen on every college campus, right? You show up and you sort of bend your sort of actions to existing gender norms. They show up as themselves, right? And that's a beautiful thing to watch when we celebrate students on move-in day and all through orientation week and as they settle in on their first semester. But it's also true that we're spaces where they can become their fullest, best selves, precisely because they have those 4 years free of those norms, where they can explore other facets of their identity that might just be, might be as salient or important to them but their gender sort of led the way in how others interacted with them. They don't have to abide by that on our campuses. So what does that really mean? So culturally, it means peers who have a hand on your back, who choose a women's college because they want to lift one another up, not tear them down. Academically, it means a front row learning experience. There's no back row at a women's college, is what I always say to students who are thinking about us, because faculty are interested in what you have to say. They create space for dialogue in the classroom. They foster collaborative exchange of ideas, and they invest really deeply in student success, both in intellectual and experiential ways that sort of make our campuses a really immersive learning experience. And here's something really important. Socially, it means cultivating a social life based on your choice and not on social norms, as Laura touched on. So if your thing on a Friday night is going to the huge party, we're college campuses, you can do that. But if instead you want to go to the video game tournament or the poetry slam or bake cookies on the res hall or go into town and drink bubble tea with friends, when you're all hanging out around the brunch table on a Sunday morning talking about what you did, the beauty of a women's college campus is there's no judgment. You can be whoever you want, and you can do that all the time. So there's a certain type of confidence, I think, that marks a women's college graduate. And I firmly believe that it comes from developing across all of these aspects of our being, intellectually, socially, culturally, in ways that only a women's college environment can provide.
Wow, that's very powerful. Jasmine.
Absolutely. I mean, Laura and Nicole definitely touched on all of the main points. I mean, I think the key here is authenticity. Women's colleges are truly a place where you can just come and be yourself and explore and learn and grow into your womanhood and be celebrated while you're doing that. I mean, essentially that's happening in lots of different places and spaces, but to truly be at a place that will, you know, whatever we do, celebrate that authenticity and celebrate your womanhood is definitely, I think, the major difference and a major part of the transformation as well.
That's terrific. You know, your comments are, I mean, all of you are outstanding, but I not a but, this is an and. I'm imagining the 17-year-old young lady who perhaps is, you know, attends a co-ed school, maybe hears about one of, you know, one of your schools or some of the other women's colleges out there, and thinks, oh, that sounds good, but maybe that 17-year-old doesn't have that sense of confidence, or that to sort of say, hey, I'm not going to go to a co-ed school. I want to go to a women's college or university. What do you like? How do you help? How do you bridge that gap, if not, you know, river between sort of that 17-year-old and to have that person come? Now, once, you know, just from listening to you all, I'm thinking, man, I mean, that's powerful. Once you're there and you have that experience, and perhaps you, at that point, then you sort of see the light. But you're talking to a 17-year-old in a co-ed school who they may not get that. What do you do? Anyone, feel free to comment.
I think I'll jump in. So I was that 17-year-old who went to a co-ed high school. I went to co-ed high schools all of my life. Ironically, my mother went to an all-girls high school. Her sister went to an all-girls high school, and two of my cousins went to all women's colleges, Bryn Mawr and Scripps. And so I ironically was surrounded by women who had been to women's colleges or women's high schools, but I'd never really considered it myself. So when the opportunity presented itself when I was a senior in high school, I'd you know, made a connection with a former president at Bennett, who I met through a connection with my mom, and got the opportunity to visit the campus. I just really fell in love with everything that was happening there. And I think the key is to showing young women vast amount of connections and community associated with women's colleges. And I think sometimes, people say, well, women's college, but it's not a co-ed, there's something missing. And so being able to show students that, one, there's nothing missing. Two, there's plenty of opportunity. Three, look at the connections that you're able to make in ways that you would have never even imagined. I think being able to really drive home that a women's college is just like any other college in terms of, what's provided, opportunities, things of that nature. But it's more geared towards and, more designed for women. And so really breaking down that barrier that a women's college is just this strange place where there's no men. So, really just breaking down, those stereotypes and showing women that, a women's college can be, just as comparable and competitive as a co-ed school, and really that connection piece. I know at Bennett, one of the things that a lot of our students say is that they fell in love when they visited the campus, when they saw other students, when we connected them with local alumni or alumna in their town. And so, really bringing them into the fold earlier than later, and just really making them feel a part of the community before they even arrive, because that's what a women's college is all about, really being inclusive and just being a part of that community and being supportive within that community. So showing that sooner than later, for us at Bennett College.
I'll leave the mic is still open to this question if either Nicole or Laura want to add.
I would love to add. I always tell prospective students, women's college is not about the absence of men, it's about the presence of women. And if that's landing well on you, then you might well be a women's college student. And I want to just sort of unpack one really powerful myth, I think, that holds that divide open between 17-year-olds who might be a good fit for women's colleges and an experience like ours. And it's that, what Jasmine just said, they're missing something by not having co-ed voices in the classroom. And I'm going to borrow a little anecdote from my colleague Joy, who is Dean of Admission at Wellesley College, soon to be Dean of Admission at Harvard College. I've traveled with Joy, and she always says, she uses a soccer analogy. If you are on a soccer team and you're the penalty kicker for the team, your job is to sort of break a tie in this really intense moment. What you do in practice, in controlled conditions, when the temperature's low, is you practice your penalty kicks. You walk up to the ball, you kick it in the net. You walk up to the ball and you kick it in the net. And you do that over and over until you're so good at it that when the time comes for you to do a penalty kick in live time and the pressure's on and all eyes are on you, you walk up to the ball and you kick it in the net. Same at a women's college. You've done this for 4 years. So you walk up to that ball, no matter what room you're in, and you kick it in the net, whether it's a co-ed room or an all women's space. You know how to do that because the skills become embedded at that point. The other thing I would say here is that if what kind of student chooses a women's college, I think is a powerful part of this conversation. And I get the sense that it's the student who's always asking why. Our students share common traits, and it's that they're always deeply intellectually curious. They want to know more. They want to explore topics from multiple angles. They want to be in dialogue with other powerful thinkers. They want to be in academic spaces where ideas and conversation doesn't stop at the classroom door, but spills out and touches into in other areas of their lives. And so if you're the kind of student who's always asking why, who's intellectually curious, who understands the power of the presence of women, we might be for you.
I'm motivated. I'm sorry. Nicole is getting me all, and Jazz, all like.
We need to recruit Stan to a women's college.
Yeah, right. Let me go back and it's just. I mean, it's just great, and it's just. I think it's just. A lot of thoughts are going through my head, but just the idea of fit and confidence in how empowering and nurturing a school can be, and I'm certainly hearing that. I feel like from your comments, but anyway, Laura, you. you were going to.
Well, I just think too, like Jasmine and Nicole and I have heard it all. We have gone to college fairs and been asked 1,000 times over, why would I go to an all girls school? Which, and then I always correct them and say it's a women's college, but why, so there's nothing that's off limits to us. There's nothing that we're going to hear from prospective students or parents for the first time. And so it's really great if you can to connect. Like Jasmine was saying, most women's colleges are small to medium size. And so like, check out our social media, like hear from our students and ask us questions, because we love to talk about this. And there's nothing I love more than a women's college convert, right? Someone who's like, I never thought I would go to a women's college. And then they're like, rolling in on move-in day and super excited. So I would just say reach out and get good information, and don't be shy about that, because we know that it's not the path for everyone, but if it's the path, might be the path for you, we'd love to chat about it.
So Laura, I'm going to ask you this question, but I don't want to put you on the spot. If Nicole or Jasmine, if either of you want to answer, feel free. But you talk about sort of myths, and I'm wondering of things that you all have heard students ask you. Is there sort of the one myth that you have the mic now that you just want to just blow that out the water and just say, no, that's not true. This is not reality. What myth do you want to blow up today?
Oh my gosh, I wish that we could have like a side chat going on, because I'm sure we all have our favorites, but mine is that a women's college isn't the real world. And everyone will say, oh, it's not the real world to just, be in a classroom of women. And my counter to that is like, college isn't the real world. Like, you live in a room with a person you don't know and go to a place where they give you food and then magically the trays go away. Like, nothing in college is real life at a residential liberal arts college. Sure. And so I think that it's, I always find it so interesting that that's what people will focus on, that it's the fact that it's a women's environment that isn't real life, when like that's not college. And I do think then it discounts the incredible gifts that come with being in an environment where you're seen as having value when you walk into the class, the club meeting, the sports field, whatever. And that you're, like Nicole said, you're just able to practice and practice and practice. And that practice, when you get out into graduate school, professional life, personal pursuits, I think is invaluable.
I'd jump in and say I have two that are always like neck and neck. I'm going to say, for starters, that women's colleges are not fun. It's like, oh, they're not fun, and there's no parties, and there's no this, and there's no that. Women's colleges are absolutely fun. They're some of the best fun I've ever had. And then the other part to that is that women's colleges, or not women's colleges rather, but when you graduate and go out into the world, that you will be not considered for opportunities over someone that may have gone to a co-ed school, which we, as women's college professionals absolutely know is not the case. Statistically, graduates from women's college are actually more prepared when they step into the industries of their choice. And so those would be my two.
Yeah, those are powerful ones. I did mention the one that Laura touched upon, which is that, right, you are less competitive in the co-ed world by virtue of the women's college experience. Absolutely not true. We are not places where fun goes to die, as Jasmine mentioned. And then I will say one other that I get with some frequency, especially for students who are new to considering women's colleges. And it's not important to everyone, but it is to some students. Will I ever see guys and men, right? And it's not true that there are force fields around our campuses, keeping men and boys out. We removed those about quite some time ago, yes. And so Laura mentioned that Scripps was part of a 5-college consortium. So is Mount Holyoke. We are connected to 4 other institutions. We're all in a 6-mile radius. Students can cross-register for courses. There's open socializing across our campuses. Students join clubs and organizations. And so we're all sort of integrated in these broader academic settings and communities. And so while students retain the power of the women's college experience, you have access to these much broader academic and co-ed social communities. So it's not true that you'll never sort of have that cross-pollination. You can choose that to the extent that it's important to your experience.
Yep, absolutely. And Bennett College is the same way. And it's so interesting that all three of our schools are a part of that university network. We're a part of the Greater Greensboro Consortium program. And so we partner with North Carolina A&T State University, which is the largest HBCU in the country. Also the University of North Carolina at Greensboro College, Guilford College, High Point University, and Elon University as well. So same deal, you're able to have your home away from home at Bennett, but you're still able to branch out and participate and engage in other activities. And you're able to take what you're learning at Bennett through the women's college experience to those other spaces and places to show folks what we're really all about.
Mm-hmm. Jasmine, actually, something that you said momentarily ago about really life after college, I want to pick up on that thought, and I will ask with the question, in terms of life after college, how can attending a women's college be advantageous from a networking and career perspective?
Absolutely. Well, our alumni network, I should say, is so powerful. And I think that's a start for students at Bennett College. When they graduate, they are officially inducted into the National Alumni Association. And so really building those bridges there. Our alums are some of our biggest supporters. They're our biggest advocates because they've lived through the Bennett College experience and are able to share that with folks all over. And so for us, it's really making sure that our students are very connected to the alum network. And then also, of course, through activities and experiences at Bennett, we require that you complete at least 2 to 3 internships before you graduate, fellowship requirements, civic engagement requirements and things of that nature. So really planting the seed, while they are with us at Bennett to help drive the way that they want to go into the world, and encouraging our students to go out into the world and into their social lives, into their professional lives in ways, again, that are authentic to them and authentic to their journey before Bennett, authentic to their journey at Bennett, and authentic to where they're trying to go. So again, just continuing to maintain that authenticity among many other things.
Mm-hmm. Laura or Nicole, would you like to add anything to this question?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I would say I think it's important for folks in the audience to know that less than 2% of women in the United States choose to attend a women's college. By virtue of that statistic, it is a pretty bold and unconventional choice. But as alums, that 2% is a community of firsts and of pioneers and of leaders. From Emily Dickinson to Hillary Clinton, we claim entrepreneurial roles and positions of leadership across professions and at a statistically much, much higher rate than our female counterparts who graduate from co-ed institutions. This is coming from a study called the Hardwick Day Study, which you can find online. Our graduates are also happier. Our graduates attend graduate school at much, much higher rates than our female counterparts who graduate from co-ed institutions. So because of this, our alums of women's colleges in particular, who can recognize one another because of that confidence that I said sort of marks us, they constitute what is arguably the most powerful professional women's network in the world. And when you choose us and graduate from us, you automatically enter into that really powerful engine where successful women's college alums want to reach back and lift up, the graduating class. And so it's a really powerful engine for women's advancement, leadership, and opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's
Nicole,
interesting.
actually, Nicole, what is the name of that study again that you mentioned?
Hardwick Day. Hardwick Day.
Thank you.
Of course, of course.
I think it's so interesting, Nicole,
Laura?
what you said about like you don't have to have gone to Bennett or to Scripps or to Mount Holyoke, but if you have that like thing and you're interviewing someone or you meet someone at a networking event and you know that there's a shared experience, having gone to a women's college, I do think that that is there's just an understanding, I think, in a sense of community within that group that's really special. The other thing is just we're able to talk about leadership in such a different way while you're a student. So at Scripps, we have something called the LASPA Center for Women in Leadership, and it's about giving, encouraging women to engage in the civic process, running for office, and also thinking about how do our students prepare authentically for what they really want, right? Is it graduate school, professional school? Is it a C-suite office? Is it wanting to have a balanced life of family and work, right? And continuing those conversations through an alum network that's really, I think, engaged and passionate, but also while a student is there, it's great if you're student body president, but it's also great if you're like a community organizer. And that, I think, too, is just seeing value in what everyone brings to the team is such a women's oriented way of seeing the world. And I think that you see it, just on full display at women's colleges. And so it's just, again, a lot of time to practice and a lot of time to be most authentically yourself.
Mm-hmm. This is such an interesting, well, interesting is not even the right word, but we're living through a period in time where we're dealing with COVID-19 and the disruptions that have come with that. College already can, the admissions process is, for some and for many, dare I say most, is can be confusing and stressful. I'm a parent. I applied to college as a student, and I'm a parent of a child that went to college, so I experienced what that's like. And then you layer onto that this COVID-19 and all the stuff that goes with that. So there are, when I talk to parents, there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of concerns about the application process and getting in and so on. So we can have a conversation about just tips on applying to school and what to consider when choosing a college, but just that one question. But in a moment or two, can each of you just offer the audience your thoughts, your tips on what a student should keep in mind when choosing a college, and along with that, how to manage it during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic? That question was not as streamlined as I would have liked it to be, but hopefully you have a sense of where I'm going with this. And so I will leave it up to you all in terms of the order. Whoever wants to go first, please just dive in.
I would say that, one of the most important factors students should consider when choosing a college, and we've been talking about this a little bit already, but think fit first. You should not limit yourself to a college search or a college decision based solely on rankings and prestige or which schools your peers perceive as the best or the top schools. You don't just want to be happy with the sweatshirt you get about bearing the college name. You want to be happy with the 4-year experience you're going to have there, right? So your job, I think, in this moment is to get obsessed with fit. You got to become master observers of campus culture in your college search. And once upon a time, that meant doing an in-person campus visit. And I think that the silver lining of COVID has been that it gave all of our institutions the kick in the pants we needed to have broader reach. And so we all have all of these virtual offerings. A student doesn't have to step foot on campus to get a really rich and vibrant sense of what an institution offers. Most of us support, chats with current students, information sessions online, interviews virtually, and all kinds of sessions throughout the year that can really help students get a behind the scenes and an inside look at what an institution offers without ever having to step foot on campus. So I would say that this COVID moment has actually benefited students in that there are more ways for us to reach them and for them to engage and think about fit. So I'll just end by talking about like what I mean by fit. How do I get it fit? So questions you should be asking when you're interacting with your college campuses you're considering are things like, what are the classroom dynamics like? Are they collaborative, cutthroat, competitive? What is social life like? Is there a prevailing social norm, or is there room on this campus for a range of social expression? How would you describe a typical student at that school? You should ask every student you interact with at that school to answer that question. Is faculty accessible and approachable? What opportunities exist for engaging research and internships? All of that will give you a sense of sort of the campus culture, and it will either resonate with you or not, but definitely prioritize fit over name, prestige, or ranking in a book when you're thinking about where you're going to spend 4 years of your life.
Thank you, Nicole. Yes. Jasmine, thoughts on?
I think Nicole really hit the nail on the head with fit. And I think the pandemic has given us the opportunity to really drill down on what we want. And I think in a sense, we all, we were kind of all on the same playing field. We were all going through the pandemic. We were all stuck at home. And so it really provided an opportunity to really be a bit more introspective in regards to thinking through what it is that you want. What do you want your college experience to be like? What type of learner are you? I've heard from a lot of students that they really dug deep into just what type of learner they were. And it was something that they didn't always think through because it was just assumed, you know, you go to campus, you go to class, you listen to the lecture. And so students are getting more in touch with, you know, am I more of a visual learner? Am I more of an audio learner? Am I more of a hands-on learner? And so really zoning in on your preferences as it relates to what type of learner you are, what type of experience you're interested in, where you'd like to be. Location can definitely play a role in where you go to college as well. So yeah, I think that fit piece is really important, and I think the pandemic really gave a lot of us the opportunity, a lot of students the opportunity to really dig deep into how you get to that fit, what's a good fit for you. And the virtual opportunities, just like Nicole mentioned, it was such a great experience, not only to explore from our end. You know, when it first started, we're like, you know, are we using GoToMeeting? Are we using Zoom? Are we using Teams? And so it was a great opportunity for us to explore how we could better serve students in a virtual environment. And then for us at Bennett College, because we are so small, it gave students more access to us virtually. We, you know, typically, you know, pre-pandemic, you know, traveled very often, and we have a very small staff. And so this really gave us the opportunity to just be more available for students in real time.
It's wonderful.
I got a lot of thoughts about this, but I will limit. I was writing things down because I was like, don't miss anything. I think there are a few things that happened in COVID that were actually, I want to acknowledge that the student experience and the personal experience was horrible, right? And so that it has been a very hard situation.
Sure.
In the world of college admissions, though, the fact that almost all colleges now are test optional is a huge win for students, because there are so many challenges related to standardized testing historically. When you look at different demographics, the fact that for most places, like in California, our state schools aren't even allowing you to submit them anymore. So I think that has been just a really special thing to see for many of us who believe in test optional. Scripps announced that we were going test optional a week before we shut down for COVID, and we were like, oh my God, it stole our moment. And, I mean, because it was all about us, you know. But to see that happen with so many other places, I think has just been really awesome, especially those places that we know are going to drive the dialogue, the places that are the name brands, to see them embracing that the way that many of our, our colleagues have done for a long time. The other thing I would say too is I think it's critical to think about the appropriate number of schools to which a student should apply. So often, we see this panicked student in April who's visiting or calling or emailing, and they say, well, I wasn't selective in how many schools I applied to. So now I have, 15 offers of admission, and I'm just as stressed as I was when I was applying. That's not a great place to be. And so for students to remember, at the beginning and the end of this process, you hold all the power of where you apply and where you choose. Now, we hold a lot of power in the middle, right? But I think too, that can have an outsized level of importance in the media and the conversation, because the New York Times and the Today Show and love to focus on the schools that turn away 95 out of 100 students. That's not most colleges in America. Most colleges in America would love to have you as a student. And so I think it's just important to keep that right-sized list. And in the midst of the conversation about fit, you should be and should feel empowered to be talking about money. And you should feel empowered to talk about the amount of money that your family can contribute to your education, talking about it early and often, especially to girls. I think to empower them to make good financial decisions is a really, really important part of the college search.
Wow, those are terrific nuggets. And you, Laura, you actually touched on the thought that I had around test optional, that whole issue. It seems like by the nodding of heads it looks like you all are in agreement with, or not in agreement, but you are supportive of that direction. Does that change any in terms of the evaluation of applications? If schools are not taking the SAT or ACT, how does that impact sort of your evaluation? And I recognize that it may be different depending on the type of school and so on, but any thoughts there? And I'm asking for the parent and student out there that's worried, like, oh my gosh, I got like, either I test super well and I want these schools to have my scores. And then there are some students out there I know that are like, ooh, I am so glad they're not taking those tests because I didn't quite, So anyway. Jasmine, you were going to add something there?
It was very interesting for us at Bennett. We've kind of seen the full spectrum. So we were test optional for many years. And then we transitioned to being test required in 2017. And so we just saw, from all of the historical data from being test optional, that it just was always a toss up with every student. You'd have a student who'd have, a really great GPA, but they may have struggled with standardized testing. Students who may have struggled more, in regards to their GPA, had like really high test scores. And then we had some folks that kind of fell in the middle. And so we did waive test scores for 2020 and last year. And we are officially retransitioning to being test optional again. We just find, that being test required was locking out certain students from our experience in being able to attend Bennett College. And students who were very well qualified outside of, whatever their test scores may have been. And so we feel like this is an opportunity to just really celebrate students at all academic levels, whether it's, related to their grade point average. Of course, we have our traditional requirements, but we're just able to welcome more students into Bennett, honestly. It's just been a huge barrier. And so we're really excited and the direction that we're moving forward. And traditionally, our admissions process is a holistic admissions process. So we do have a set of, required admissions guidelines in regards to testing and GPA and things of that nature. But if a student does not meet those requirements, we do, through a program called the Emerging Scholars Program, allow students to still be accepted, through certain parameters, through, a conditional acceptance program. And so, taking test scores out of all of that it's been helpful for us. It's going to be a lot less processing and a little bit of saving a little bit of paper too. But all in all, it's really just giving more students the opportunity to attend Bennett, and it's giving us the opportunity to look at their information, speak with them, to dig a little bit deeper than that test score.
Thank you for your feedback there. In our closing minutes, I definitely want to get the perspective of the panel regarding really it's about helping parents help their student along the way. And let me preface the question by saying that at thesecrettowriting.com, and part of the spirit behind this speaker series is that we want to reach people near and far, and we want to reach families of elementary school students and middle school students so that they have information to empower them and ultimately to open the doors of access to higher education. So with that being said, my question is, how can parents help their students plan and prepare for college, particularly even parents of middle school students, as young as that, as well as high school students? Now, that's a broad question, but in 1 minute or less, can each of you offer your thoughts? And we'll start with, we'll go in this order: Nicole, Laura, and then Jasmine. I hope that order is okay.
Sure. So this is something Jasmine mentioned earlier, but taking the time to help your middle schooler and early high schooler begin to understand who they are as a learner and understand what they like best. Is it small discussion-based classes? Is it lecture-style classes? Is it spaces where they can be involved in hands-on learning? Helping them articulate who they are as a learner will help them when they're asking harder questions later about fit. But I would say more broadly, parents should take the time to understand their students' aspirations. Their role is a guiding one in the college process. Your student is only going to thrive in college if their motivation comes from here. Because when they get to our campuses, they're going to need to draw on it and know where it resides in order to be successful on our campuses. They need to really connect to it. So help them explore and articulate the axes of fit, who they are as a learner, and just be sure that your role is a guiding one.
Okay, so just a few quick things. I think the first is talk about college as being fun, right? So like I have 2 little boys. One of my favorite things to do is like, imagine what it's gonna be like to go to college, right? Imagine what it'd be like to go to that school that's in the Sweet 16 basketball game, right? They're really not gonna go there, but it makes it like a fun and exciting thing for them to look forward to. I think the other thing is just to cultivate their curiosity about the world and to really just be engaged in helping them to be a curious and interesting person. And that doesn't have to have one particular way that it's going to go, and they can change and evolve. But I think that it is going into it not of seeing it as like, ugh, I got to get my kid to college, but like enjoying the process of having a child in your home who you get to be a part of their journey. The last thing, and I'll say it again, is just think about and talk about the money of it often. It is shocking when I'm at the club soccer field and I'm talking to families about going to college. They can't believe how much college costs. And I think just even being out for as long as we've been out, the cost of college has gone up exponentially. So if families can start to wrap their brain around the financial investment, I think that it just takes a lot of heartache out if there are certain parameters, which are totally reasonable when we are as expensive as we are.
Absolutely. I think definitely the money piece. And it's never too soon to start planning. I have a 1-year-old and I'm already like, okay, we're getting this set up. I mean, hey, 17 years and so many months and 3 hours and counting, and we're there. So it's never too early to start planning. Like Laura mentioned, that early exposure, giving your kids the opportunity to just explore college, whether it's through the lens of athletics and enjoying that, whether, maybe you have an older child or a niece or nephew who's in college, letting your kids, go visit and get that type of, real-time experience. I also would suggest to support your student through the college process, not direct them through the college process, because essentially they're the ones that are going to this school. It's going to be their experience. And of course, as parents, we want to be involved. We want to be there every step of the way. We really want to have influence, as it relates to the choice. But easing up a bit and allowing the student to make the choice that's best for them. Mom and dad's alma mater is great, grandparents' alma mater is great, but that is not always a good fit for that student. And so really allowing your student to drive the search, to drive what it is that you're looking for, and you supporting them along the way versus directing them to where you think would be best. And shout out to all the parents. It's not a dig at our involved mom and dads. Of course, that's the nature of being a parent is wanting to ensure the best for your child, for your kids.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do, right? That's
we
the
do.
But giving your student the opportunity to really own their voice, own their choices, because essentially when they get to college, these are going to be the things that they're going to be required to do. They're going to have to take care of their business, own their own voice, own their choices, be responsible. And so, starting that a little bit early and letting them be ahead of the game never hurts.
All right. Well, that is terrific advice. Some just outstanding nuggets from all of you. And we are, unfortunately, we're out of time. And so we're going to have to bring this really terrific panel to a close. So let me just first off thank each of you, Jasmine, Nicole, Laura, again, for taking the time to be with us. Your feedback, your thoughts, your wisdom, it's just been phenomenal. And I know that it will benefit the people that are with us today and will view this presentation for the time to come. And to our audience who have joined us today live, we want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. I certainly hope that you have benefited from the wisdom and knowledge of our panelists. I want to wish each of you the very best in your individual decisions with choosing a college. And one message that I definitely like to share, and I've certainly heard it from our panelists, is fit. Think about fit. So on that note, I want to wish everyone a great evening on behalf of thesecrettowriting.com and our expanding college opportunity speaker series. Thank you. Please come back. We have more events lined up. Just go to our website at thesecrettowriting.com. Have a terrific evening. Bye for now. And thank you.